I'm Michael Quaden, 34 years old, born in Bonn, working at EY Germany Forensics and Integrity Division with a focus on crisis management and investigation. And I recently graduated from the Executive MBA at the ESMT in Berlin. My father, Heinrich Quaden, he is a retired military officer. I'm married to my mother, Gisela Quaden. I'm originally from Bavaria, and well, as I'm the youngest of four children, it's not only my parents, but it's also my siblings that had a great impact on my personal development. Truth be told, I think one of the most significant developments in my childhood, and that brought me along the way that I encountered, was a 4 years journey in Turkey, because my father has been posted there as a diplomat in the mid-90s. And well, my heart got stuck in Turkey and the entire Middle East region. So actually, before joining EY, I spent another 4.5 years in the Middle East, in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Jordan. So all in all, close to, 9 years of my entire life I've spent in that region and still very much affiliated to it. So thanks to my parents for forcing us children in the mid-90s to leave our home, leave our friends, and endeavor on this very, very interesting journey. Not sure if I can honestly say that I was the best student, particularly compared to my sister, who always brought A's and straight A's at home. So I had attended the German school in Ankara, which was the school of the German embassy. However, very much internationally driven. So from very young age on, English was the second language learned, and then Turkish, obviously. Besides that, yes, there was a lot of traveling when you could still travel, especially to Syria. And I still remember my times walking through the old town of Aleppo or going to Derek and Hasake. So it was a huge adventure for me as a young child. I mean, I was 7 years old when we moved there. And for me, it was like a massive, huge playground, just wandering along all these ancient paths. And my parents, both academics, they were always pushing and in a play kind of manner, us children to really get along with the history, to really indulge and learn by just being open and passionate. My parents always told us children, do what you like, because then you're going to start becoming good at what you're doing. So after graduating from high school, at that time in Germany, military service was still mandatory. So before actually attending university, I spent a good 2 years in the German military, got my training as an officer in the military intelligence branch. From there, I went to Freiburg and studied history and Islamic science as my minor. And with that, it was just really, I did one class in law and I really figured that's not mine. So, after graduating my bachelor's and having roughly half a year off between master's and the bachelor's studies, I actually went back to the army, spent 6 months in deployment in Kosovo from 2011 to 2012. After that, went back to Germany, studied constitutional, social and economic history as my master's. And shortly after, I was like, what am I going to do with this kind of study? Actually, very, very academic, not the clear studies you're going to take when you say you want to join, as I said, a big four company or law firm. So as my heart was very much still in the Middle East and the ensuing crisis there, especially the civil war in Syria, I figured, that's something where you should get active and something you should work on. Fortunately, my sister at that time already was down in that region working for an international NGO, and she sent me a vacancy for a UK-based NGO working in that region. It's the so-called International NGO Safety Organization, recently moved to The Hague. So I applied for the job as a safety advisor for North Syria, and that's where my journey started. So I think it was like 2.5 years working as a safety advisor on North Syria, based in Turkey, however, with a lot of travel also to Beirut, to Amman, also northern Iraq, so the cities of Erbil. And from that, I figured 2 years on that very intense and challenging mission. I figured, let's move to another place, stay in the same organizations. So I moved to Iraq, became deputy director for that organization, working on the entire Iraq humanitarian crisis response, working closely with NGOs, international organizations. And after having spent quite some time there and had some changes in my personal life going on, I figured, let's just give it a try. Let's do something totally different. So it's like not stuck in kind of a wheel, but more like, let's do something entirely new. And I just wrote an email to EY and said, guys, I'm super interested in what you're doing in forensics and integrity. And would be great if we could just have a chat and you could tell me what you're doing, whether there is a chance for me to join you guys. And within 2 weeks, the path was set to join EY in February 2019. Here I am. First and foremost, it's less consulting, or not consulting at all. Forensics and integrity is part of the bigger assurance service line. We're looking at financial fraud very much at the core business. So if there are allegations, if there is a whistleblowing incident, someone alleging someone of fraudulent behavior, of non-compliance with, might it be data protection, GDPR, big issue for all of us. Non-compliance in ethics, that's where forensics comes in. So often there is the case that you do have a classical year-end audit, and the auditors do find something that does not add up in terms of numbers or things like that. And then they're going to ask forensics to do an investigation, a classical one. Besides of that, there is always a possibility that we're working on behalf of government institutions and law enforcement in terms of special experts on certain cases. That's the very much reactive side of forensics and integrity. So when really things have gone south already, then we are called in. Then there's also obviously a bit of, a huge chunk of cyber-related incidents, as they often, as we all know, and we just recently saw in the US, the large cyber attack. It always comes with huge data violations. There's always a significant financial impact. So it's also the remediation stream of that work. On the proactive side, it's really looking at compliance improvement services. So assessing the company's compliance system, assessing and supporting in the development of a whistleblowing system, given the recent laws, especially in Germany, on the mandatory requirements for whistleblowing. It's business continuity management and business continuity development, especially proactive in terms of crisis. Even though I can't go that much into details, given the confidentiality of client agreements, there is maybe one example. So prior to Corona, we were closely working with a client on developing and enhancing their business continuity management. And no one was actually talking about Corona at that time. Shortly after, we finished our project with them, really had a clear roadmap, and they were implementing quite a stable system. They gave us a call and saying, well, guys, Corona is really forcing us to get this thing up and running. No one would have imagined that this exercise and this project we did together really needs to go live in such a short time and short notice. So that is really a variety of services we are offering. And as I'm particularly in crisis management and investigations, that's really where my core is. Interestingly, I did not apply proactively for that MBA, and I wasn't even sure whether I want to attend university at all after having graduated my master's. But my company offered me the chance to attend the Executive MBA program. And after, a bit of reluctance at the beginning to whether I should actually go along that way, which is indeed challenging, because doing an MBA parallel to being fully employed and working in a certainly not that stable time was was a bit of increased a bit of reluctance there. Nevertheless, once I started the MBA, I really figured I couldn't have done anything more and anything better than seizing that opportunity. Besides getting to know a lot of amazing people within the cohort of my Executive MBA, but also within the university with other classes, really extending towards a global network. It's the variety of classes that were offered, and some things I had limited to no experience prior, which gave me an insight and gave me ideas and really taught me on what kind of business critical thinking needs to be applied. There is a partnership between EY and ESMT, and there is a chance for students or for employees to apply for those kind of for one of these slots. Well, it wasn't, I don't want to say I was forced. On the contrary, receiving that offer out of the blue, and I joined in February 2019, and it was some point in May or April 2019 when the company said, Michael, well, we do have this one open slot there, and wouldn't you be interested in taking it? So in that instance, I knew it would be very dumb if I would not take it. It's a huge commitment, a significant investment in employees, in people, in teams. It really shows the value seen by your employer, by your superiors, in oneself. So it is actually, well, truth be told, it's an honor to have received that kind of support at a very, very early stage in my career at EY. Is something I would have never expected. So yeah, I was very much, when I was offered that chance, I was very puzzled, humbled, but also, yeah, a bit like standing in front of a huge mountain, because, well, it comes with expectations. And after such a short time, there is, on the one hand side, the huge trust I received. On the other hand, it was also for me the awareness that, well, those guys, that leadership does have huge expectations in my performance. So you better get all the things in order. You better do that. And you better make the company gain and participate out of, well, what I did. I did my thesis on leadership topic, the question how to evaluate failure and success of putting teams together in a professional service firm, very much focused on my company. So really I was able to reflect all the insights straight back into my organization, into the forensics and integrity division, to really see where are the tweaks and perks, what do we need to maybe adjust in terms of team setups, what do we need to consider, especially in times like these where teamwork is done entirely remote, where you have limited to no chance to really engage on a personal level with your teammates. These kind of less tangible, however, very important developments that can be also brought back into client relationships, into team relationships, and projects you're going to have with the client. Especially, we're doing a lot. We're using a lot of automation. We're using a lot of technical tools, but especially in forensics and integrity, you can never disregard the human factor. That has a huge impact. Might the human factor be the trigger point for an investigation because that particular person has committed fraud or is accused of fraud? It's really it's hard to put the finger on those intangibles, but it's really widening your perspective, being more receptive to certain behaviors, to certain feelings, and that is, I think, or I would argue, it's very much important in terms of teaming, in terms of project engagements, in terms of business metrics, is you need to find the right team before you commence any kind of work. And once you have identified that team and you're going to provide them with the necessary guidance, you're going to support them along the way, you will be able to complete a project within time as it is desired by the client. You're going to meet your financials. You're not going to be the overly expensive consultant that just stays on and stays on. No, you're going to have your KPIs as a team. You're going to become the trusted partner for your client throughout this entire engagement by not only applying technical excellence, but also the kind of human and relationship excellence. So mentorship for me is really finding a sparring partner, someone who is encouraging you, is pushing you, but is also challenging you, and not being hesitant and reluctant of also having these kind of uncomfortable communication and uncomfortable talks and chats and sit downs. It's really someone who sees strength in you, but also pushes you outside your comfort zone. For me, a very significant mentor was my professor who guided me along the thesis, Matthew Botner. Amazing. It was all the chats and talks we had, all the exchange along writing the thesis was really widening the horizon, bringing new perspectives in at various points, but also openly telling me, Michael, don't do this. You're going to fail if you're going to do this, regardless of how stubborn you are, regardless of how much you think it really is the right way. And that's outside of ESMT. That was within EY, my solution leader, who really is a mentor for me. He became a mentor. And I think the mentorship program within ESMT is beyond only looking for a mentor in ESMT, but really pushing you outside, searching for mentorship amongst your peers within ESMT, searching amongst mentorship outside of ESMT within your organization, within your circle of friends, maybe in family. I think that is very subjective there. And besides receiving mentorship, and I think that is very crucial, especially if we're looking at an executive MBA, where 100% of students are in a business profession, most of them are in a leading function. It's also offering mentorship to younger colleagues, and in ESMT to younger students. And I think this, let's call it generational exchange, ESMT opens your eyes towards and not forces you, but really triggers you to look into and just share what you have done and share your insights. It's this mutuality that you gain there, receiving mentorship, but also providing mentorship. That's outstanding. And that is one of the parts I mentioned earlier. It's those things besides the pure academic. It's really developing you towards becoming an inclusive, an open leader, a leader who is a teammate, as a comrade, as someone who is not reluctant to push back on ideas, is not reluctant to encourage creative ideas. It's really finding this kind of balance, but also a leader who doesn't think he or she is the greatest person in the world and doesn't need to receive feedback. So this kind of really participate on plug into as many heads as you can attitude, that is really the benefit of the ESMT mentorship program there, I think. Well, military training, you could say, is physically more challenging than an MBA, especially at the beginning. And well, each military in each country is different, and I wouldn't like to compare the entire path, especially if you're looking at the German army. If you want to become an officer, you need to have a university's degree. So there is, at a certain point in your career, there is the academics that really come in, and you also are trained to become a leader, but this kind of leadership is certainly different. Sure, you need to be inclusive, and sure, you need to motivate those you are commanding, but you are still commanding. You're giving orders. Occasionally, there is the need that you shout orders. And well, what you do learn in an MBA and what you take out of the MBA is a totally different kind of leadership. I think if there is one similarity or something that one could say is parallel, is the MBA as well as the military training really drives you into a way to not shy away from decision making, to consider the pros and the cons. And well, there is a class at the Executive MBA which is decision making. Full stop. There is a class and there is an ongoing training in the military of making decisions, considering the pros and the cons, the most likely and the most dangerous course of action. And well, if you want to combine this, yes, there is some kind of similarity also looking at business development, looking at business model canvas. What is the impact of a strategic investment decision? What are the most likely and the most dangerous courses of action? But in an entirely different setup. Sure, military in the worst case operates in a hostile environment. Wouldn't say that the financial market does not constitute a hostile environment, but the chances of dying are significantly lower. So I think the combination of the two, and as I found in my answer that I'm giving right now, is this kind of decision can do attitude and this will do attitude. And in an MBA, it's not only the I can do, I will do attitude that really sticks out. It's also the I am going to look left and right. I am going to leave my comfort zone, not because someone ordered me to do it and I'm going to give the orders down. No, it's my intrinsic motivation in terms of leadership. And by that intrinsic motivation, I'm going to motivate others to really leave the comfort zone, take decisions as a group, but also drive and steer decisions. So there is a kind of similarity. Nonetheless, an MBA, you do have far more freedom. I mean, looking at the Genome Week and the Academy of Management, and also whether you want to do a final thesis or a final project with your company, you do have the academics. You can still be a free mind. You can still let your thoughts travel wherever you want them to travel, receive other and different input. And that is certainly far more difficult within the military. Retrospectively, I can only encourage everyone to endeavor on such an interesting and really inspiring roads to take your MBA. Might it be an executive MBA, might it be a full-time MBA or a MIM, a Master's in Management at the ESMT. It's not only the pure academics that really is of unspoken and unmeasurable value that you gain. It's everything that complements this endeavor. It's the personal support. It's the very close proximity of mentorship you receive from ESMT. It's all the things that happen alongside. It's the friendships that do develop with your classmates. It's especially in an executive MBA, the possibility of increasing your business network, obviously, not only within the ESMT classes, but also when we're looking at international conferences, the Academy of Management or the so-called Global Networking Week, where you get to know students from other MBA programs across the world. That is really, it's a unique chance that you're provided. And I would strongly argue that if you're not doing something like that, an MBA like that, you'll never have this chance to, in a very short time, get to know a lot of amazing people. And I think one of the most important considerations here is that, yes, you need to leave your comfort zone. And yes, you need to tell your friends and family that for the next 2 years, maybe more or less, there will be not that much time for personal life. It's work and it's the MBA. And it really makes you value what you have, the family support, the friendship support, but also the support you gain from your class. So retrospectively, if I would have known all of that prior to taking on the MBA, I would have just jumped on it and said, yeah, sure, let's just go for it. I didn't, but now I do. And it's really, I'm really grateful and thankful for having had that chance. And with the graduation, having the chance, and I think that is something that is unique for ESMT. You will always be affiliated with ESMT. You will always stay in contact with ESMT, with your classmates, with the university staff, and with a lot of other people, interesting characters, business owners, scholars, professors that are going to be present at meetings, at presentations, at various events, and in various interest groups that do come together at ESMT. So once you started at ESMT, that is something I hope, and I'm very certain about, is something that will be part of the rest of your life. ESMT is really, it plugged into something that was already there. And it's unfortunately, most of my ESMT time has been remote. Nonetheless, it's like really this global network idea, this bringing together as many different people open to change, open to various social and personal backgrounds. And it's really this kind of, well, in EY, the purpose is constituted building a better working world. I don't want to use this working world narrative, but it's really, you have at ESMT so many ambitious, driven, powerful people put in one spot. It's like really, it's like the nexus of change that you bring together there, of building a better, more connected world that works in a coherent, cohesive matter that drives change towards the better of economy, the better of society, and the better of oneself. And this combination that EY brings forward is really, if I'm looking at my purpose, I really want to be part of this ongoing development. I mean, if we're looking at our society, might it be just in Germany, or if we're looking at the global society, it really frightens me to see what's happening. And then you're at ESMT and meet so many amazing people from across the world. And you're like, why do we not, as a global society, manage to what we have managed at ESMT? No hostilities. An open and inclusive environment where different views are not only accepted, no, they are encouraged, they are powered and pushed, and they are really what brings the people together in an environment where everyone can exchange their ideas, where everyone, and that brings me back to the mentorship program. You can find mentorship in a very small group at a certain moment, because people are going to push you outside your comfort zone. They are giving you critical feedback on your ideas. So, well, I haven't seen, maybe not the whole world, but a lot of a very specific region, which is the Middle East. And unfortunately, it is one of the most troubled regions over the past decades. This seeing the people and their ideas and disregarding politics for a second is really what ESMT further pushed. It's providing the chance, seeking opportunities, critical thinking, and first and foremost, open and inclusive culture. That is really the essence there of ESMT. Maybe I'll just seize that opportunity at the end to really reiterate my gratitude and towards my family, towards my friends, towards my employer, and towards ESMT for really making me endeavor along that path. And looking back to 2019, I would like to see me back in 2019. I would really love to have a conversation with myself back then and now. And especially at the time when I was reluctant to, kind of reluctant to really go to ESMT and do the EMBA program and now. And just ask myself the question, what was going on in your mind at that point? Why were you reluctant? Luckily, I had the chance to talk with a close colleague of mine who recently started the EMBA program, and I could share all my insights. And I also told him, well, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to consume a lot of your time. And there will be times when you are asking yourself, shall I stop? I mean, what's really the value of this? But remember 24th of April this year, it was graduation. Interestingly, I mean, it was an entirely online graduation. Best birthday I could spend in Corona times. It was the best gift I received. It's a gift I made to myself with a lot of people that supported me along that way. And while I was sitting there, and it's like, that can't be over right now. It's like you're working towards that one point, and then when it's over, you're like, but I don't want this journey to stop. And luckily, ESMT doesn't make this journey stop. It's actually, well, you have your degree, you become an alumni, and that's where I would say that's where the journey really kicks off. Because with all that free time you now have on your hands, and with everything you learned and the way you developed as a person and as a professional, you really can now contribute to family, to your company, to ESMT within the alumni circle, and especially drive along the way of becoming a mentor and really giving back to society. Might it be a huge one or just a small one, starting in your closest circle of friends. And that's something where I was on the receiving end. So that is what I'm really grateful for, to still be on the receiving end on the one hand side, but also to now being in a position where I can return everything that I have received.